10 coats of paint stained in tobacco.
Yeah, it is the Adult in the Room podcast. Victoria Taft with you, your news Sherpa. Lots going on today. The latest Biden scandal. Can you believe we've still got more of those coming up? Yeah, as a matter of fact, this one involves the FITF's bunch, the FBI covering for the Biden family. Can you believe that? Well, of course you can, if you've paid attention. All right. Plus, well, Seattle's decided to pay trannies to come to their fair city. So trans people are now being paid to come in and be, I don't know, just whoever they want to be, which they probably could have done wherever they went from or came from. But nevertheless, that's what's coming up. And we'll talk to you about that. New law in Massachusetts. I'll tell you about that. And let's see. No, I think I've told you pretty much what we're going to contend with today, except, of course, Hot Book Summer. It is Hot Book Summer. You know, recently it was Alex Decker's great book, his debut novel, Desert Heist. And we had a conversation with him where he's promised to come back so we can talk about the book. Because you know how it is. You don't want to tell everything in the book because why would you buy it? You know how that goes. And before that, it was Solomon Schmidt's Pen to Save the World. What an odd title. But you know what? Makes some sense when you read this story about J.K. Rowling, and different, and I think obviously informative information about J.K. Rowling and how it is that this book, I mean, you may be the only people who will be allowed to read it, because throughout the UK it is censored and censored in other parts of the world as well, because J.K. Rowling of Harry Potter fame, well, she has impure thoughts. She has wrong think. And as a result, she's too controversial to put in bookstores, and she's too controversial to allow to be speaking on the airwaves, because she believes men are men and women are women, and men ought not be in women's bathrooms or on women's sports fields. So there's that. And then, so that was that book. So, and then a frequent guest that we've had before. Let me see. Oh, I know. Beyond Honor, that's coming up next week. I wanted to let you know that. Beyond Honor, this is another debut novel. Simon & Schuster This is K and B are separate people. They're married, last name Brodsky. They are spy thriller fans, cut their teeth on Vince Flynn, and they have written their own, and it's amazing. Freaking amazing. You don't think that Emily Bessler would take a chance on somebody who didn't have the goods, did you? No, she wouldn't. And so they're coming next week, next Tuesday, I think it is. No, correction, next Thursday. So be here for that. I'll, of course, send out notifications and on that sort of thing. And then, of course, our buddy, Don Bentley, who's writing now for In the Vince Flynn Universe. His next one is Double Tap. Got one. I haven't cracked it because I've had other things to read. Cannot wait because it slides in to the numbers of Vince Flynn books, and we're going to get a little bit more information. I think it's following the one he just wrote. Well, I'll go back and look at my notes. And of course, he's fantastic. So, amid all of those superstars, today we invite you to listen and ask questions of a frequent guest on this program, a fan favorite, in fact. Whenever Nils Grevillius is on, people love to hear what he has to say. If it's about, a missing mother, if it's about Luigi Mangione, if it's about any number of topics, he's all over it. He knows what he's talking about. It's just amazing. And people love him for that. What do we have? 76% of the audience on this program is male. So you're going to love Nils because he's your guy. So he's just written a book, another book. This, I think, is third. The Last Lawman, the stories of a private detective. I haven't finished it all, but it's gritty. It's raw. And it's got enough detail. I can't say a lot about certain things because, in fact, he's had quite an interesting life. He's been, soldier, maybe a tinker, spy, NPI. How about that? Nils, welcome back to the Adult in the Room podcast. How are you?
I think I'm pretty good. That was a lovely introduction, Victoria. I'm very grateful to you.
Well, I loved your book. Oh, I haven't finished it all yet, but can I read about the author thing? Do you mind?
But by all means.
Okay. Born to ruling class and Nils, he wrote this part of it. Of course, he wrote the whole book, but Kurt Schlichter did the foreword. What? Love Kurt. He's terrific. Okay, born to ruling class progressives, Nils Grevillius couldn't dash his parents' hopes fast enough. Ejected from school, enlisted in the military at 17. Grevillius went from scout to counterintelligence operative to the Pinkerton service in the metropolitan Los Angeles area. Having failed at every single thing, he finally found his way, founding his own detective and clandestine service in 1992. Kidnappings, Romani gypsies, forgotten murders, the conflicts of interest from domestics who all over the world. Nils Grevillius has executed jobs on every continent, keeping a network of colleagues, contacts, informants, and operators. Grevillius has been able to bring cases in every public agency when every public agency gave up or was too conflicted to act. This is an ongoing theme we see in his book. From hunting down witnesses to a Hollywood kidnapping, absconding to Europe, or secreting a family with their last remaining assets from a hostile nation in Africa, Nils Grevillius has made the cases others could not. Wow. Book delivers too, doesn't it?
It's in there. Now, your audience should understand that I never give up who my clients are.
Sure, of course.
Secrecy is coin of the realm. And there have been other private detectives who wrote professional memoirs where they name drop all the celebrities that they're involved with, that sort of thing. I would never do that to my clients, and I don't understand why other men have done it, other than maybe for making a buck. I've earned a handsome living doing all of this. One of the things I impart in the book, though, Victoria, is that if I had not found my way, there is another version of me who might have been a very bad man, a criminal or something like that. Like if I had to work at a bank all day as a teller or operations officer, I would just be fantasizing how it was that I'm going to tunnel in over the weekend and clean them out and disappear, launder my identity in another country, only to strike again.
You know, you do talk about human nature, and this is an opening quote from a person who makes several appearances in your book. When you go about delving into a subject's background, first you must know who he actually is. Nils tells us who he is. Document and verify every detail, name or names, date and place of birth, parents, education. Without collecting these, you will not get to the bottom of what motivates him, his loyalty, whether or not he is a traitor, a cutout for someone else, or a member of a hostile intelligence service. But that's, with you, you know all that. You know if you're a cad, a bad actor, that you are untrustworthy, and you revert to, what is it, the level of your training, which is not your particular training above and beyond, but, you know, your factory set, you know, training as a bad actor.
All of us have the potential to do bad things.
Yeah.
I found my way out of it, okay? I don't want your audience to believe I'm a guy barely, containing his criminality. I am not. But I learned a secret for how to switch off fear. And it is through the acceptance of death, one's own death.
Ah.
The problem with it is if you see a bit too much, you might switch every single thing else off. And the opposite of love, Victoria, is indifference. Mm-hmm. And when you become indifferent to your own life, you're a machine.
Right. How did you learn that? I mean, somebody came along, and there were good people sort of prompting you along throughout this book, which you need to read. And so...
My father was a Japanophile, like a lot of men who served in the Pacific as a Marine. Even though he had to fight the Japanese, ultimately during the Korean War, recuperating from horrendous wounds suffered at the Chosin Reservoir, he came to view Japan as a haven, a heaven on earth, if you will, and came to fully embrace much of the Japanese philosophy. He spoke a good amount of Japanese. I'm not saying he became a Zen Buddhist or anything, but he was he loved them. And there were aspects to the Japanese military ethic on full display for him. The South Korean army utterly failed in 1950 and could not stem the flow of the North Korean army until they took men who had been officers in the Japanese army who were Koreans and put them in charge of combat units. And they even instituted Japanese battle commands within the South Korean army to restore discipline. And the discipline I saw in the ROK Army was like the Imperial Japanese Army of World War II. If you disobeyed your colonel, you could be shot or horsewhipped or this sort of thing. Now, that's harsh to the Western eye, to the Western mind, but that's what they needed. The officer who took command of 9th Division White Horse on Hill 167 in the Korean War had been a colonel in the Emperor's army, and he ran White Horse like it was an element of the Imperial Japanese Army. He drove his men relentlessly. Well, they saved their sector. They stabilized their sector on the DMZ. And they still occupy Hill 167 in the DMZ. The only break they've taken from Hill 167 was a 3-year tour of duty in Vietnam to aid us.
Page 3, quote, back then, this is from your book, back then there were no shades of gray between good and bad. Men were good or men were bad. Bad men might be made good through the processes of criminal justice, and good men could be made bad when exposed to vice and licentiousness and disorder. And ultimately, you found honor, I think. And I'm asking sort of two separate things, but you found honor. And a lot of men talk about having honor. You hear a lot about young men saying, well, I'm trying to, acting with honor. But when did you know you had honor?
One of the most endemic and annoying things about the 1990s was the encroachment into popular culture of the man who is unsure of himself in all things. The 80s gave way to that, and that's why the 90s are so horrifying to look at in retrospect. Men who are just timorous and doubt every single move that they make, and it's indicative of weakness, and they're proud of their weakness. It's like every orifice thinks he's an oracle, and every weather vane thinks he's a compass, okay? So, getting back to the Japanese philosophy, you accept death, your own death. And if you can accept your own death and you survive whatever you encounter, then that's a bonus, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way that works. And it's an Eastern philosophy. Well, they do it in the West also. The Germans, the French, the British, the Americans, the Canadians. When the first time you're going to have to go over the top and fix bayonets to go charging into machine gun fire, you're probably going to die, or there's a good chance of it, right? So, you can sit there and make a mess in your pants and cry for your mommy, or you can go over the top and be a man about it.
And so, go ahead. No, please.
So we have an aspect of our culture where we reward cowards, particularly aggressive cowards. Look at when the global war on terror started on 9/11, right? Did you see a great big rush of athletes and actors and everything else into the military to defend the United States? You did not. You saw a few notable guys go in, and some of the people who served wound up later being athletes, actors, news commentators, that sort of thing. But there's no shared sacrifice. We've so stratified ourselves in this country. There are whole sectors and classes of very privileged males in this country who wouldn't even think of doing a day in uniform. No, they'll mouth the words, "Oh, well, if we were attacked in this country, I'd certainly say." Well, we were attacked on 9/11. You didn't see them pony up, did you? It was the boys from the small towns, and it was the guys from the inner city, a lot of men and women from the inner city, from the ghettos and barrios, who maybe they saw an opportunity, but they also loved their country enough to serve. And some people think that serving in the Peace Corps is somehow the equivalent of military service. I say garbage. Okay, your ass isn't on the line when you're doing that. And then we have our conscientious objectors. Okay, how conscientious are they in their objections? Okay, during World War II.
Nobody ever asks that.
during World War II, there were American, British, French, Canadian conscientious objectors who served anyway, who went into battle with no weapon to hold the wounded off the battlefield. Okay? So that's conscientious objection. Serving even though you are conflicted inside and you still go forth and do it. Now we have men, we had sick, lame men who would fake wellness in order to serve in World War II. Now we have men who fake their own ethical obligations in order to avoid service. Okay? So that's what I see. We stratified our society, and then in a stratified society, sooner or later it'll fall beneath the dignity of American and Western men to defend the West. Look at Belgium, look at Britain, right? Look at Germany. Most of the NCOs in the German army now are Turks. And the Turks are more faithful to Germany than Germans are in some ways.
Wow. Do you recommend required service by younger people?
What I recommend is making every single man show up for draft evaluation and taking the top 10% in terms of physical fitness and mental acuity, and giving them a chance to serve voluntarily, and if they choose not to serve voluntarily, drafting them. Just the top 10%, but everybody who shows up, right? The ones who are too cool, too sweet, too ethical to show up and be evaluated for service shouldn't get EBT, public university, Social Security, any other parts of the American social compact, in my opinion. If you're too sweet and clean and pure to actually show up to be evaluated for military service, yeah. So that's my sense of it. Now, Jimmy Myers, is talking about the McDonald's generation, men and women who are too overweight to serve. When I joined the Army in 1980, we had plenty of what they called wide bodies. Right?
Yeah.
We had a drill sergeant, Staff Sergeant Jerry Wallace Parrott, United States Cavalry. And by the time we were done with 16 weeks of training as cavalry scouts, all of us looked the same. The skinny guys, the feather merchants who came in too light to fight and too thin to win, and the great big beefy farm boys who had overdone it at McDonald's with Jimmy Myers, well, they all looked the same. Their hair was short. They could march in formation. They could handle a weapon. They knew what was required of them. So I say garbage. I say bullshit to the reasoning that fat men can't be made into soldiers. It can happen.
Okay.
You have to allow the non-commissioned officers to do it.
One of our usual boo birds says, why serve for an unjust military action?
Right. And who gets to decide what's unjust, right? Vote smarter if you don't like it.
Yeah. Commenters will get a personal Nils message. Okay.
Well, I mean, what did he ever sacrifice for this country?
I don't.
So if you want to be a man in a country like this, are you accountable? Are you willing to sacrifice? Or are you so Simon pure that you can't sacrifice or be accountable? Right?
So you were in the military, you thought about, and you got into counterintelligence, and that took you. Well, tell us a little bit about that time of your life.
Well, counterintelligence, there's a very anodyne discussion of what it might be if you search it on Google. There'd be something on Wikipedia what counterintelligence does, and it involves intervening in the intelligence collection activities, operations of hostile intelligence services and non-state actors, which is a sweet way of saying terrorists, and neutralizing them. Now, that neutralization could just be exposure. We've identified this person as a spy working for Iran or something like that. What if neutralizing them in wartime involves beating their head in and leaving them in a ditch for their friends to find them? I'm just speaking theoretically, though, as a man who doesn't operate on a theoretical level. There's a method to it, right? So what counterintelligence really is asymmetric warfare for the kind of guy who can sit at a desk smoking a pipe and shuffling pieces of paper and identifying problems that other people don't see.
Well,
you need some treacherous women, too. Some of the best people in our human intelligence services are females because they're treacherous. They move pieces around on the chessboard. And some of the people telling outfits like the SEALs and Delta to go into action and take this group out are females. They're the ones making the decision. Okay.
A lot of counterintelligence, intelligence officials. Joe Kent's wife, first wife who died. There's our last Alex Decker. I met his wife. He's a Delta. I'm sorry. Green Beret operator and other things, and met his CIA wife there. Lots of people, a lot of women out there. They're running ops, or at least right there doing it next to these guys. So I got it. Now, so you come out, and not everything's roses, right? You have to figure out where you where you stand. And I don't know that I don't recall that you use this word loser, but you are definitely thought to be a loser in your mother's mind, right? And so how did you navigate that? A lot of people have those issues. What did you do next? How did you navigate that? And then how did you find your way?
Well, I accepted death. No, with my mother, it was this thing of accepting the fact that I was never going to be able to please her. And so it's a pointless exercise. I love my mother. Let me give you an idea, your audience, an idea of my mother's essential character. She was a lawyer for 38 years. She was an All-American, All-Canada lacrosse and basketball player. She was a Ford model, okay? When my mother died, she had 3 children and a boyfriend, and she left no will, which is in a sense a Gaelic will. Here's a knife, here's a knife, here's a knife. Rip each other to pieces, see if I care.
Wow. Really? She did that? She just left you guys. I always thought it was kind of weird. My grandmother, who was basically my mom for many, many years, and she didn't leave us any. I mean, my uncle, of course, inherited, but I mean, I just wanted something that she remembered me by, just anything, just a wooden spoon. Okay, I mean, just anything.
I got the wooden spoon many times, darling. She broke 3 hairbrushes over my head before I was 5. But
Jeez.
I'm grateful for her. I love the woman, okay? But that's the sort of mother that I had. She wanted me to be an Ivy League, lawyer, doctor, engineer, academic, something like that, with 2.5 children and a hyphenated last name wife and a golden retriever or an Irish setter or something, living in some suburb, writing op-eds for the New Yorker, okay? I will never be that. If I could have enlisted in the French military at 13, I would have. They have a program for guys like me.
Huh. They do?
Oh, yeah.
French Foreign Legion?
Well, that's what they call it, yeah. I mean, yeah. I came very close. I mean, I was at that point when I got out of the Army of, do I get together passport, airfare, shot records together and go to Marseille? Well, I just kept getting these bail fugitive cases in Mexico and a couple in Canada, that sort of thing. And I'd get enough money to support my whiskey lifestyle at the time. My drugs of choice were whiskey and violence. And, that's what was going on. And so eventually I outgrew that. And any idea of changing my identity through French military service, fell to the wayside. But I'll tell you a story that's not even in the book. Well, part of it's in there. In the summer of 1990, I went to San Felipe, Mexico, which is on the Sea of Cortez in Baja. And it is so hot that the sea is 90 degrees on its coolest day. And it was typically 125 degrees in San Felipe. And I had an old car, a Datsun B210 with a stick shift, and I had a pistol, and I had a photo of the man that I was looking for and a description of the car he had stolen from a woman. It was a frosted pink BMW 218. And he was a drug dealer. He was an American who spoke no English, and he was hiding out in San Felipe for whatever reason, and he was wanted on $50,000 bail. And so I was down there to apprehend him. And I think I showed up with about $100 in my pocket and half a tank of gas in this Datsun that wasn't registered or insured or anything else. It's a $500 car. Why would you register and insure it? I mean, what's the point, right?
Especially Mexico.
So, well, I bought it in Los Angeles, and I imported it to Mexico with me in it, and broke several Mexican laws, like having a gun with me. It's only a crime if you're not supposed to have a gun, or if you do have a gun, or whatever. Who cares? So I'm in Mexico. I'm looking for this guy, and it's 125 degrees, and I'm running out of money, and I've been there 3 days, and the car gets stolen, and I find it stripped on the beach, down the strand from where all the taco stands are in San Felipe. So that's my ride back to the United States, and I'm down to $8. and I don't have anywhere to sleep, you know. So a Mexican woman let me sleep on her couch in the air conditioning for the afternoon, and I went out on the evening, and I spotted the frosted pink BMW.
Oh,
Are you there, Victoria? Are
you
you there?
stand by. They have a problem.
There you are. Hello?
I forgot to plug my.
I can hear you, but you're frozen in the video feed. Oh, goodness.
I think we're back, Nils. Sorry, Nils.
Okay.
So crazy. I mean, hey, Alex, can you give me a heads up? No, you don't. We're not gonna. We're just gonna do this and hope that things work out. This is wild, just wild. Anyway, okay. Yeah, my background's all messed up. Okay, so I beg your pardon. It's all my fault. I did something wrong, and more than half of the people watching live just went away. But hey, it's going to be fine. Alex is going to do a pickup, and we're just going to go. And we're talking about how you navigated your mom, and how you picked up your life and just went on, and the people you met and those kinds of things. If we can just pick that up and talk about that a little bit.
So when I started to change direction, I stepped away from the bottle. I had fallen in the bottle like an open sewer main after the Army. And I decided I might actually become a lawyer. And the conundrum was how to support myself through law school. I didn't have a baccalaureate, so I was looking at quite a bit of schooling. So I'd been in the Pinkertons, counterintelligence, all this stuff. I'd, done all this work. And I thought, I'll become a hard hat deep sea diver, construction diver for the petroleum business, petroleum engineering, because it's seasonal. I could work, 2-3 months out of the year and make enough money to live on all year. And I went and I toured a trade school that teaches hard hat divers, and I was willing to take the risks. It's so risky, in fact, you can't get life insurance if you're a hard hat diver without paying a super premium. So they had the aerospace recession after the Gulf War in 1991.
Mm-hmm.
They laid off most of the hard hat divers operating around the Middle East, and that's where I necessarily would have been working. And I'd done a lot of work in the Aegean and Horn of Africa, that sort of thing, contracting. So I knew the area. And then I just I took a few cases on for a couple of companies like the Pinkertons, cases they couldn't handle. And I didn't have my own license, so I was operating under theirs. And I thought to myself, I might as well get my private detective's license and run a very bare bones operation on a shoestring to get myself through law school. So that's what I did. I didn't even have a telephone. I had a pager at first. I got my license and started doing all that. And I don't know. I went through police academy so that I would have the same qualifications as a city cop. And one night I was following a suspected serial rapist around Orange County. He was good for it too. I mean, I had him dead to rights, window peeping, and window peepers are rapists waiting to act, is all they are.
Ugh.
So I'm sitting there in the dark. I had taken the LSAT, and I did pretty well without having taken a prep course. I did better than 86% of the people I took it with, and I didn't even have baccalaureate. But I'm watching this guy, and I'm in this battered Mazda pickup truck, just another beat up vehicle that I couldn't register. It didn't want to register, insure, or anything else. And I thought, you know what, I'd rather do this. And so that's what I did. From that moment forward, I was, just running a detective service, and I started getting better and better clients. I picked up an entertainment lawyer as a client who represented the estates of several famous people, and I'm not going to give up who these people were. Some of them were living, some were dead, but their estates were earning royalties off of music and television and cinema and everything else. And they had problems, and I'd take care of their problems for them. I got sent to Texas to find out why 1,000 acres of Texas Panhandle came in appraised at $11 an acre for the estate of a country music writer, and discovered that the local appraiser, the realtor, his cousin was the one leasing the property, and the cousin was a deputy sheriff. And so they artistically omitted the oil and gas leases on the property, changing the value of the property. I mean, that's an example of the work that I did. And it was like being cast in a remake of Deliverance. Every time I was out working, somebody was searching my motel room. The county sheriff owned the motel, the cafe, everything in the town. So that's an example of the work that I did. There was a man who had swindled a country music producer this man was friends with the Gores and lived in Nashville. And I had him under intermittent surveillance for years to figure out what he had done with certain pieces of intellectual property related to country music that would belong to the estate of this producer who had been dead for 30 years, but his estate was still needing to collect it. There was a lawyer who had looted a European film distributor, and there was a $16 million judgment against him. He'd been disbarred for looting them, and he had sunk all of the money into modern art, original art pieces, Renoir, Cezanne, all of this stuff, right? And
Wow.
my job to find him and find the art, and I did it.
How long did it take you to do that?
Well, it was kind of a protracted operation. It turns out he was married or living with a girlfriend who was much younger, who operated an art gallery in New York City. And she represented several, high profile living artists and was selling their works. And I infiltrated by pretending to be a designer from Tucson. It was before the internet, before you could do facial recognition. I had a Tucson phone number, a pager, and all this, business cards. I can speak the vernacular of art because one of my best friends, an early influence of mine, was an abstract painter, a very close friend of mine. And so I masqueraded as a designer, and I bought 2 pieces of art from her gallery, and they invited me to a cocktail party in their apartment in Hell's Kitchen. And I went in with a concealed video camera and videotaped and he went painting by painting. This is mine. I got this in 1979. I got this from the estate of so-and-so. And so when we sent the marshals in to seize all this stuff, she tried to claim the stuff was hers, not knowing that we had video evidence of him saying that it was his.
Wow.
Those are examples. There were other ones too, but again, I won't reveal who my clients are.
Right. So you have lots of different kinds in your book. You have lots of different kinds of capers, things that you've contended with over the years. And before we get too far out of your soldiering for just a second, will you tell me tell the audience what you can about Velma? Because I have it in my notes that I wanted to ask you about that.
She was a lady of the evening. She plied her wares around Fort Benning, Georgia. Fort Benning, Georgia is a place where the primary industry was always separating GIs from paychecks. So you had strip bars, pawn shops, used car lots, surplus stores, things like that. And we were instructed to find a date for a formal dining in being hosted that Sergeant Major wanted all the officers to be our guests. And it wasn't because he honored and respected the officers. He was toadying up to them in advance of being caught embezzling. So I didn't know he was an embezzler. I just thought he was a sycophant and an obnoxious ass of a man. So the SOP demanded that we bring a date, a girlfriend, a wife, something like that. And I was at a loss. I wasn't dating anyone. And I encountered this 40-year-old lady of the evening in the parking lot of a strip bar on Victory Drive in Columbus, Georgia. Victoria, are you still there?
I'm here. I just wanted to have you telling the story for our production purposes.
So I dressed up in my dress whites like Richard Gere in Officer and a Gentleman. And I picked up Velma and put a motorcycle helmet on her. And she was in a taffeta dress, about 40 years old to my 21 years. And she hung on to me the wrong way all the way to the dining in. I'm not going to get specific. But it turned out she knew the sergeant major, she knew the first sergeant, the motor sergeant, and she had a few cocktails and got a little too familiar with them.
Oh, my gosh. And their wives were there too, right?
I kind of, it's like hacking. It's like a hack, a life hack. You made it so they're never going to hold another formal dining in again if you do something like that. And that's what I did. And later on, the sergeant major was forced to retire after getting caught embezzling maneuver damage funds.
You have heightened attention and aversion to corruption. You make clear in your book, The Last Lawman. Talk to me about that. I mean, this is one of those cases. I kind of wonder did you really have full knowledge of what you were doing in the Velma case? And was it born of your detestation to artifice and this kind of stuff, correct?
Well, I didn't know the sergeant major was corrupt. I just thought he was a brown noser. That's all. I wanted to make him look like that without doing anything that could, leave hoof prints on me. So I pushed it right up against the edge. And, that's what happened. And I'd do it all over again. I want your audience to know that. No, I didn't take any liberties with Velma. I dropped her off so that she could do a regular trade. She was very sweet of her to do that. I think I paid her $20 for that. And she had a few cocktails and looked her best, right? Let me say something about corruption. If you went to any big city in this country, you would never get the mayor to admit that it is corruption for police officers to be incompetent. They would never admit that. But that's corruption. If they're hiring police officers who are so physically inept that if they get into a confrontation with a skell on the streets, it immediately goes to gunplay with no intervening steps like pepper spray, baton, sap, cattle prod, any of that. You immediately have to gun the poor guy down, right? Whether he's a wife beater or a bank robber or cocaine dealer, whatever. You are committing an act of corruption by not having healthy physical people who can handle bad situations. That's corruption.
I guess I've never thought of it that way.
Sure. What if the exclusive use of your police agency is to protect the political class and has nothing to do with enforcing the laws? Now, the police can't stop every single crime, but they can sure cook the books if you make them do it. Look what they did in D.C. If a business owner goes into the LAPD and makes a crime report and says, Victoria Taft, my bookkeeper, stole $500,000 from me and I can prove it, the desk sergeant won't even take a report because the minimum threshold is $1 million for embezzlement. And if they do take a report, the backlog for the detectives at the quote unquote Financial Crimes Bureau to actually act on the case is 3 to 4 years. And the statute of limitations is 4 years. So Victoria probably got away with stealing $500,000 from her employer.
Wow.
So they come to me. I find out if Victoria is worth going after in a lawsuit. So they take a civil route and they might accomplish something there, but they're never going to get it by prosecuting Victoria on a criminal level. They know that. They set it up that way.
Wow.
Okay, that's just an example. Mm-hmm. What if Victoria has a very nice car and Victoria's younger sister, who's always been kind of a hoe, comes over to Victoria's house and says, Vicky, let me borrow your nice BMW. I've got a hot date with someone. And so Victoria hands her the keys to the car and says, now be very careful and bring it back full, and doesn't see her for 14 days. And Victoria's younger sister, who's kind of fast and loose, she never intended to return the car. She just took it. So Victoria says, well, to hell with this. I'm going to go over to the sheriff's office and make a crime report. My younger sister, who's a bad girl, she stole my car. And the sheriff won't even take a crime report. The sheriff will say you gave it to her. Mm-hmm. Permissive use. Now, there's nothing in the penal code that says that. That's the difference between the filing policy of the district attorney and the letter of the law.
Sure, yeah.
So Victoria has to hire someone like Nils to find the sister, find the car, take the car back, doesn't she?
You've learned a lot about a lot of dirtbags in your time, and one of the skill sets that you've learned was the neuro-linguistic programming. You make a big, NLP. I remember having a show on San Diego radio, and these people kept coming at me, and it was just a public service show, and they kept coming at me and they wanted me to do a show on neuro-linguistic programming, and I thought, I think eventually I did have them on, but what is that and how does it help?
It has to do with nonverbal communication cues. What if you had a system, Victoria, where when you're interviewing somebody about something that occurred and you want to know where they were and what they were doing when it occurred, and you could discern between them recalling what they actually did or them making up a story about what they didn't do. Mm-hmm. That's neuro-linguistic programming. What if you had a system for elicitation of information from people by establishing rapport with them, by communicating with them on like terms and mirroring them linguistically in what it is that they say? So if Victoria interviews somebody, casually and discovers that they're intensely visual, they wear loud clothing, they talk about how something looks to them, and then Victoria mirrors that and talks in visual terms and puts them at ease to the point that they think that Victoria Taft is perfectly consanguineous with them. And consanguineous is a $500 word that means of the same blood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then Victoria is able to learn from them by putting them to sleep.
Wow.
Figuratively, they're asleep.
Yep.
They don't have their guard up anymore because they have adjudged Victoria not only to not be a threat, but somebody who's actually an ally or a friend or somebody who's going to do something super good for them, even while she's doing something really bad to them.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that probably came in handy on more than one occasion. In your line of work, you end up you go to Pinkerton, then your drinking kind of gets the best of you, and you give that up. You start anew. You open up your own PI firm, and then that's when you start finding out who you are even more than what you did before, and solving crimes and rolling up dirt bags. Even the cops came to you. Right?
Oh, sure. The police will sometimes come to me to handle the things they can't do, or when they have a problem in their personal life, they'll come to me to handle it, which I readily do most of the time. I won't work for bad guys. I won't work for dirty cops.
I have a question about that. The Last Lawman is the name of the book. He actually has a story about helping a cop at some point. Do you trust cops?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not even going to say the usual thing of, some cops are dirty and we all hate dirty cops, okay?
Sure.
If you've got a crappy police department, it's because you've elected idiots and criminals and jackal filth to the city council or the county board of supervisors or something. Don't look at the cops. The cops take their cue from the political leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm glad you said that. A lot of people believe that, and it's just like, for example, along the West Coast, you've got corrupt individuals in L.A., San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, and the same stupid things keep happening all over those cities. It kind of makes you wonder how.
The primary role of the police department in blue cities is protecting the political class. It has absolutely nothing to do with enhancing public safety, solving the problem of citizens. It's public relations is what it is. When you see the two-stripe officer out on the street talking to the citizens, it's just PR. They've been told, don't arrest the pickpockets, don't arrest the pimps, don't arrest the muggers, don't arrest the store thieves, don't arrest the burglars, the embezzlers. Occasionally pinch someone for armed robbery if you can make a clean case without, causing a big scene and a gun battle in the middle of the city. You can do that one. Okay, and that looks good. We can hold a press conference. You can arrest some poor hillbilly because he has 11 firearms and put them out on a card table and hold a press conference and say that he had military-style assault weapons, and you look at them and it's 2 AR-15s and a pump shotgun and a couple of Glocks, right? And he's gotten arrested because, he had an expired tag and there was a gun in the back seat or something like that. That's what they do, okay? They're not there to protect public safety. They can barely protect themselves. Yep. And there's a codicil in the book where a big city mayor was yelling at a state senator that he didn't know what was going on. And the state senator says, well, these police officers in your city protect each other. And the mayor said, of course they do. Police officers who won't protect each other can't protect citizens.
And do you believe that, or is that antithetical to what you believe?
I believe it with the very fiber of my being. There's a reason why. So the men and women we make into police officers, whether they're good or bad or inept or very physical and capable, When I'm home at Christmas unwrapping presents, they're out there in the rain cleaning up the next fatal accident.
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving, when the turkey is being served, and she has 3 little kids at home at her mother's house, and she's out there having to take a crime report for some woman who's had her teeth knocked out by her baby daddy or something like that. She has to see that. When your kid is at soccer practice or something like that, they're serving a search warrant on some drug den where 2 or 3 of them might accidentally overdose on fentanyl because they kicked the door in too hard, right? And every day their pension is at risk because of the people, the suits, the bastards in suits running the cities and counties will threaten them with their pension, their health care benefits, everything else, if they don't toe the line and maintain the political stature that the political people want. Okay? So yes, cops who won't protect each other, won't protect me, won't protect you. Hell yes, I believe that.
Mm-hmm. Nils, thank you. Appreciate it. Anything? I've like he has a reading list at the back of the book. What's your top reading list book that you say it's essential?
Essential?
Yeah. Maybe to understanding you, if nothing else.
Well, how about The Onion Field?
Oh, okay.
I was never a city cop, but I took that book when I was 14 years old. I knew Joe Wambaugh, okay, the man who wrote the book. Mm-hmm. And the lesson of The Onion Field is when you're in a fight, you never give your weapon up. Any man who would take your gun from you is a man who will kill you with it. So even if you're going to die fighting the man, it's better to die that way than on your knees begging for your life, begging him because you have a wife and kids or something like that. You're better off dying on your feet.
But you have to be a man with honor to do that.
If some skell comes in your window tonight to assault you, hold a knife to your neck and rape you, you're better off fighting it.
Yeah.
Okay, even if you're going to get killed, you die with some dignity.
That almost happened to me. So
it's almost happened to almost every woman you know in some way or another.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. And I'm glad I fought back. And I hope that guy never had any children, because I don't know that I left him fully capable of doing that. Thank God.
Good woman.
Okay, the book is, and that's why you want to read it, The Last Lawman, Nils Grevillius, Stories of a Private Detective. We could go on, and I've already kept you longer than I ever promised I would keep you, or said or asked you for your time, and I'm glad that you could stay longer and tell us stories. It's Story Time with Nils, and we really appreciate it.
My sincere pleasure, Victoria. Now, have you read any other private detective memoir?
Not that I recall, no. And I haven't read Michael Connelly, but I have seen, I think he's an incredible writer. I know you have mixed feelings about him. And I'm trying to think. I'm sure I read a couple of the like the Zodiac Killer books back in the day and that kind of thing. I read Helter Skelter. I spoke with.
I knew Vince Bugliosi very well.
Yeah, and I interviewed him once.
Oh, fantastic! Great character. Entirely his own man. Love him or hate him. Mm-hmm. I want to say something about Zodiac. Mm-hmm. Robert Graysmith polluted the whole Zodiac crime scene well after the fact with all of these crazy ideas about all these killings that were not Zodiac. There are only 5 Zodiac killings that I'm aware of. Okay. And I have been working off and on since 2018 on a very viable Zodiac suspect who is still alive, one that has never been identified in media or by public agencies. And there is a documentary being mounted by a very capable young man who is an investigative journalist whom I've come to know and greatly respect. I'm not going to say one more word about this, but I want you to remember this, that I told you this.
Yep.
The person who first put me onto this suspect was Jack Palladino. And if you look up Palladino, he was murdered in 2021 in San Francisco. He's a longtime San Francisco private detective. He and I had known each other since about 99 or 2000. Tom Murphy, former chief of police of San Francisco, had introduced us. And he had me running some leads on this particular murder suspect without ever telling me what it was related to.
Really?
Yeah. And Palladino got murdered a couple of years after that. Okay. That's what I'll say about it.
Do you ever fear for your life? I mean, I know you say you can't be afraid to die, but I mean, how close have you come?
What are you going to do to me, Victoria?
Well, you could take your secrets with you, though. I don't want you to do that.
Well, okay. So I'm being coy here. My way is to be as indigestible as possible. So, yeah, I've got pretty good notes. If I get killed in action, I get killed in action. There's a reason why I still wear dog tags. It's not just that it's jewelry for men. It's in case I get killed in the field.
Mm-hmm. Well, read the book. There you go, The Last Lawman, Nils Grevillius, and we'll see you again down the line. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Victoria, and I want you to enjoy the most lovely day ever.
Thank you. I think you mean that. I appreciate that. Okay, sorry about the connection here. This is just woo. Okay, so yeah, that was interesting, was it not? Yeah, but read the book. So good. Somebody says, "Oh God, another right-wing circle jerk." Dennis, love you, mean it. Why didn't you stick around? I got one for you. In fact, I'm going to take before we get to the next story that we're going to talk about, I've got a personal privilege to tell you about. I just want to take a moment to proselytize a little bit. And we have a couple of baby cribs at our house, for which we have no more use. And I've been thinking, who would want these new baby cribs? Who would want these new, barely used fancy mattresses that we have all the bells and whistles for and that are in these cribs? And I just like, the cribs are nothing special. They're simple. They don't have a lot going on, which gives a new parent the ability to decorate around the simplicity of the crib, And I was noodling about where to donate these cribs, and I asked new parents I knew, and they were already hooked up. They had plenty of things going on, and I thought, well, okay. And during the time I'm commiserating and ruminating about this, the governor of Massachusetts, did you hear about this? The governor of Massachusetts, surrounded by some women, all very, very happy, signed a bill into law that allows abortion up to the moment of birth. And I thought, wow, they seem very pleased with themselves. And as I watched, I couldn't help but think about, those ultrasound pictures. You got the ultrasound picture of the baby in utero, and then as a baby on the other side of the wall, and they're the same person. They're the same person. And I thought about those empty cribs. And I decided to donate them to the no-kill baby shelter, because that's what's going on here. Sometimes dogs get treated better than babies. And you thought child sacrifice was over? You ain't seen nothing yet. Pro-abortionists in Massachusetts just proved you wrong if you thought that babies were treated better than dogs. But what do I know? I'm just the adult in the room. I know some people just don't want to hear that, and that's fine. That's just fine. You don't have to know about that. You don't have to think about it. But there's a lot of stuff going on that you need to think about, such as, and let's go over here. I've got to make sure I can get you to see what I've got. During the Biden administration, the FBI had a special task force. And the special task force looked into Biden corruption that ran secret op to dismiss evidence as disinformation. And it still continues. Isn't this interesting? So this is the FITF, and it's turns out the FBI may have spent the 2020 election doing less protecting democracy and more protecting the preferred storyline, which was Joe Biden never did anything wrong. He was not corrupt, and Ukraine had nothing to do with the fact that his family was enriched by millions of dollars. And so the FBI, this story that we read here in Just the News, outs not just the story, but outs the documents which prove the story. And what did the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force allegedly do? Did they follow the evidence? Did they investigate competing explanations for what was going on with Joe Biden in 2014, 2015, and all that stuff going on, and plus leading into his presidency eventually? No, no, they didn't. They actually were covering up any scintilla of a vestige of a possibility that anyone would find out that Joe Biden had been doing, enriching himself personally. That's why Hunter Biden went to work for Burisma and all that stuff. And I know some people think that's a fairy tale and that's not true, but that's actually you're wrong. You're actually wrong about that. But I feel that that's an important story that we've gotten confirmation again of, and this confirmation is involved in this story, and it's supported by the fact that they being this FBI task force, which is giving, check this out, they're giving, defensive briefs. You found out about defensive briefs and how they didn't give one to the president of the United States about what they had on him, quote unquote, on the Russia thing. All Jim Comey did was, he said to Donald Trump, that they had a P-tape, the P-tape, remember the P-tape? And that he didn't want that to get out, says Comey. Oh, and Trump says to him, according to Comey, I'd hate that to get out. Melania would just be, I'm so hurt. And never said he did it, obviously, and there was no such tape, of course, as James Comey knew. But that was the only extent to which a defensive briefing was given to President Trump. And so what happened? This particular FITF task force set up different bundles of people. They made two lists. Actually, it's one list, and you have it all here. And what they did was, these are the people who were targeted in this. Among them, the Rudy Giuliani, William Barr, he's the AG, Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, Richard Donahue, don't remember what he did, but they were all identified as conduits of information. Jim Jordan, head of he's on the Intelligence Committee, as well as is now, I think he's the head of the Judiciary Committee for the House. Chuck Grassley, a conduit of misinformation as assessed by the FBI. That misinformation was even looking into Joe Biden's connections with the Ukrainians, which everybody knew was dirty. Everybody knew was dirty. And now check this out. So Joe Biden was on the list. And what was Joe Biden's thing? He was given a defensive briefing because he was a target of the misinformation. Do you know who else got defensive briefings on what the FBI knew about the misinformation about Ukraine? John Kerry got one. Victoria Nuland, who is the progenitor and architect of what was going on in Ukraine. Michael Donnellan, Tom Donnellan, Amos Hochstein, board member in Ukraine, Dale Perry, and John Templeton. Those people were targets of the misinformation. Therefore, they were given defensive briefings. And the list continued. Cofer Black, Hunter Biden was given a defensive briefing as a member, the board member of Burisma, and on and on and on it goes. So here we are. Spreadsheet was recovered from the U.S. intelligence agency files made public Wednesday by the White House Government Transparency Task Force. No, Joe Biden did not have one of those. Shows that spy agencies and the FBI created a list of more than 6 dozen prominent organizations, Americans and foreigners, who became figures in the Biden family Ukraine scandal and the 2019 impeachment proceedings against President Donald Trump. As I told you, the spreadsheet neatly divided figures along political lines. Democrats like Hillary, Biden's, Barack Obama, George Soros, who is listed as one of the targets of misinformation. FBI also labeled 2 of the President Trump's first-term cabinet secretaries, Pompeo and Barr, as well as Chuck Grassley, Ron Johnson, and Lindsey Graham was on the list. I mean, it's just, and then this might be connected to when, no, that was Jack Smith. That was later. Okay, never mind, because they were spying on the senators as well. Yeah. Jack Smith was spying on the senators and reading their text messages to find out if they were talking to President Trump. Yeah, pretty interesting. And there was no predication for that, by the way. So you have to have a predicate for a reason, you know. This was called Operation Round River. Round River. And the FITF squad, in fact, I should probably show you my Twitter profile. Here it is. The reason I even bring it up. Painting the targets in the culture war. And I'm on the FTF squad. That was the censorious squad that was stood up by Joe Biden. And for which people like me, and I mean, I'm nobody, but I mean, people like me were censored, shadow banned, etc. by Twitter. Just amazing stuff. Just amazing. So that's one story. And then here's another story. It's a tale of 2 cases. Like, for example, we have a huge thing. Golly, you know, this is awful. This is just terrible. ICE is so bad. We cannot possibly give them this new weapon. Sure, they have guns and they have all kinds of other kinds of non-lethal, as well as things that will hurt people if they are attacked by, I don't know, somebody driving a car into them or attacked by them. AP exclusive, ICE plans to give officers gloves that can deliver painful electric shocks. I'm fine with that. I am. And I have a reason for it, and I'll tell you in a minute. And it's this. Immigration Customs Enforcement officers may soon be outfitted with gloves that can deliver painful electric shocks intended to gain compliance from combative individuals. Now, let's just take a look at this for just a second. Now, why would ICE officers have to have closed quarter weaponry? Why would that happen? Why would that be? Why would that be? Well, let's turn to, if we can, the story I wrote the other day in my West Coast to Mest Coast. And it's a tale of 2 rioters. And so I wrote this last Friday. I have another one coming up tomorrow. Tale of 2 violent rioters. It's hard to conceive that California federal judges might be tougher than Oregon ones, but here we are. In Los Angeles, a 23-year-old rioter who poured 2 bottles of lighter fluid onto a burning California Highway Patrol CHP vehicle. Remember the big riots in LA, June 2025? He also threw an electric scooter over a freeway overpass near the officers when they were having the violent riots, and this guy was egging them on and trying to hurt cops, trying to hurt ICE officers. Well, that guy has been sentenced. He is going to prison, and he's going to, and I'm not club fed. He's going to federal prison in order to pay $253,415 in restitution, right? And he's going to go, let's see, 4 years in prison, I think it was. 3 to 4 years in prison. Yeah. And there's another story. Too bad Asaley doesn't have a clone in Oregon because an Antifa affiliated rioter who headbutted and kicked and grabbed their nads and other private equipment of five federal officers outside Portland ICE facility got 0 jail time, 0. Post-Millennial reported that U.S. District Court Judge Amy Baggio sentenced Augustine Gordon, who's 32 and old enough to know better, in late July to 4 months home detention, followed by 5 years of probation, which is, I can figure is just a pain in the you-know-what. But for what he did, probably not that much. He could be in prison. The prosecutor sought a 4-month prison term while the defense asked for 1 year of supervised relief. The judge declined prison time. Now, I want you to see this. I want you to read this. Judge declined prison time, citing that it would be counterproductive for Gordon's mental health to be in prison. His lack of prior criminal history and lifelong burden of felony conviction. And as I know, duly noted, do you know what's really bad for mental health? Getting headbutted, kicked, and yanked in the nads by a ready-for-combat Delta Bravo at 3:30 in the morning, which this was out in front of the Portland ICE facility, who was wearing black bloc, a helmet, elbow pads, a bike, I already said a helmet, and then the clear goggles and a blue surgical mask, because he, yeah, okay, yeah. And your reason the judge didn't know he'd been identified before as a bad guy? I'll tell you why. Because she didn't check. And not only that, the guy was wearing a black blocked out and a mask. And she has no idea. But she could have surmised that he'd been doing this before. He certainly seemed pretty comfortable pulling the nads of 3 to 5 officers, ICE guys. That's why I don't have a problem with this. I don't have a problem with ICE officers being given the ability to not have to use lethal weapons, but in close combat with these Delta Bravos. And if they have gloves that zap you, right on. Because if they ain't going to jail, at least you want them remembering what happened to you. Of course, you'll be sued, but maybe there will be another judge that says, get out of here. You're lucky not to be in jail. The devices known as the glove, it's an acronym, stands for Generated Low Output Voltage Emitter, are manufactured by the Compliant Technologies LLC of Lexington, Kentucky, and have been used in recent years by some jails and police departments. You know, I know a jail guy. I know a guy who's an officer who oversees inmates. I wonder if they have those. DHS said Tuesday it was working on a response to the Associated Press inquiry, had no immediate comment. Now, I know who was what dude. Oh, you're talking about me. Yeah, everybody always says that. Is that a man? They always do that because they're weak-minded. They don't think women can do this job. I've only been doing it for 40 years, but it's okay. It's all right, buddy. I got you. You have your right to an opinion, and I have a right to mine, like you are a Delta Bravo. So there we go. This is today's show. I think I covered everything. Nils, I want to make sure. Did I get everything? Let's find out. Let's see here. Hot Book Summer, Story Time with Nils. Seattle pays, I forgot to tell you about the Seattle pays trans folks. This is going to take 2 seconds. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Seattle can't afford cops, but sure. $300,000 for trans Fugees is totally legit. Here, you want some eye bleach? I apologize in advance for this. I should not have used this feature photo, but I knew it either repels people or... Seattle just donned a sirloin steak suit to attract sexually confused people from all over the country and the world to come to town to get free stuff. Canadian teacher in the photo above is Also included, he can go to Seattle, get money, and be left alone with his Z cups because he likes to dress up in this ridiculous outfit in front of his shop class students in Canada. Yeah. $300,000. They're going to launder that money through NGOs and nonprofits in Seattle. And before too long, they're going to say, well, we just don't have enough money. There are more people coming to Seattle because we invited them by putting on a sirloin steak suit. That's what's going to happen. Mark my words. Doesn't take a brainiac to do that. I'm just telling you, that's what's happening. This is the guy. Now, this is the reason I'm bringing it up. Because Kayla Lemieux, not a real name, Canadian teacher with a size Z prosthetic breast placed on paid leave. So this happened, God, this is a couple years back. So this dude got his sexual fetish jollies by dressing up, trying to teach shop class with those knockers, those fake ones. And can you imagine planing wood? No. Maybe doing sanding something? No. Maybe putting something through the table saw? No. This guy is a walking safety problem. But oh yeah, let's by all means let him teach the kids so he can get his sexual jollies and fetishes scratched while he is grossing out children. So here's another picture of him. We got permission to use that over at PJ Media. And here is what he looks like. Here's what he looks like. You know, that other picture's better. He's in another school now because he was disinvited from this one. That's a dude. Okay, that's a dude. And this is what, can you imagine having to use, I know women who have had breast reduction surgery. This is obviously not his issue. He just decided to put those things on. And now apparently he needs some help to steady himself. Also, other pictures of this loser. You know what? I would say, if you want to go home and you want to do that to, whatever, don't involve other people. We have other pictures of him. Here he is again. He's got a wig on or something maybe here, or he just grew out his hair and he dyed his hair. I mean, I dye my hair too, so that's okay, although it is coming in pretty. Anyway, here he is. He's making sure that he's safe during COVID. And here he is in his, because I wondered when I started getting people they were looking at the story and I thought, they're going to ask what happened to him. They're going to ask. And I want to be able to tell them. He's teaching at another school, but he can't dress up in his fake outfit and with fake breasts as a fake, brave individual. How about that? Yeah. All right. It was great talking to Nils. Great talking to you too. Great comments today, except the guys at the last. Time to go. Let's do it. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Adult in the Room podcast. We do not take you for granted. We appreciate every single person who tunes in every week to listen and watch this program. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, live streaming on Rumble, and then on every other podcast platform shortly thereafter when we can port it over and get it over there as soon as we can. All the shows can be found at victoriataft.com, where the censorship regime has been banned by me. Follow me on social media at these names: Victoria Taft, the Adult in the Room podcast, and the Victoria Taft Show. Send media inquiries, or any others for that matter, to victoria@victoriataft.com. And here's a big ask. Would you please subscribe, share, like, comment, recommend, and give this program a 5-star rating where you can? We really appreciate it. We do not take that for granted either. Follow my work at, you guessed it, victoriataft.com. PJ Media, I write tons over there. Flamingo Audiobooks, and of course the radio. I don't do this alone. This show is produced and engineered by Overall Media. 1A Cast is responsible for some of the Adult in the Room podcast's imaging. Logo design by Hageman Creative. The Adult in the Room podcast is produced at Flamingo Road Studios. All rights reserved.